Hello and welcome to the Watchful Citizen, a local access program and presented by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. I'm your host, Jane Egan. Today's guest is Lincoln School Board member Katie McCleese Stephenson. Katie represents LPS District 6. District 6 can best be described as the eastern portion of the city. Welcome to the program, Katie.
Thank you so much.
Let's start the program by learning a little bit about you and the job of a school board member. How long have you been on the board?
I am completing my first four-year term. I was elected in May of 2011.
Okay. And you're running again, so why did you decide to run for another term?
Well, so many reasons. I like to say to people there's at least 39,066 reasons, which is the number of students currently enrolled in Lincoln Public Schools, and that has grown over the last 4 years. In addition to that, I am a social worker and I have a deep affiliation with children and families, especially those in need, and am interested in serving again and giving back to our community. I'm a product of Lincoln Public Schools. My children are enrolled in Lincoln Public Schools, and I've seen so many great things, but I know there's still room for growth and improvement.
So can you describe a little bit to us what District 6 is? I said that it was the eastern portion of the city.
Sure.
Could you describe that in a little bit more detail?
Yes, many of the districts are, if you think of Lincoln as a pie, where most of us touch the middle of the city and then come out. So I do have the eastern edge of the city, and that runs from Holdridge to Old Cheney, and then I come on on Holdridge. I come all the way down to 33rd Street, and then over to O. And then we cut up a little bit around the cemeteries and go over to Randolph, and then I come down Randolph all the way to 27th. Over to A, and then up A Street to 70th, and then 70th Street I go east, and that goes all the way out to Old Cheney.
So what schools are in your district?
Well, it's grown as well. So when I ran 4 years ago, there were 7 schools in my district. Now there are 10. So there are 6 elementary schools, and those include Purtle, Meadow Lane, Riley, and Eastridge, and then I've added Randolph is now in my district, as well as Maxey. So I have those 6 elementary schools. I have 3 middle schools. I have Color and Lux, and now I also have Leffler. And the high school that resides in my district is East, but I also have a portion of the northeast attendance area.
I see. It's a big district and a lot of responsibility.
It is.
Yeah. Can you describe to us what a member of the school board does?
Sure. Well, we have one employee, and that's the superintendent, and our superintendent is Dr. Steve Joel. The board is responsible to hire, to supervise, and to evaluate the superintendent. Dr. Joel came to Lincoln about a year before I was elected, so I was not involved in the hiring process, but we stay in very close touch with the superintendent through meetings, through messaging and those sorts of things. And then also on an annual basis, we evaluate the superintendent and also set his contract. So those are some of our primary responsibilities. In addition to that, we're involved with setting board policy, and that is policy that all of the district employees follow. And then the district sets the corresponding regulations. So that's another big responsibility. And then, of course, we have a responsibility to those that we serve, to the students, to their families, to those who do not have children in school but are certainly invested stakeholders through their taxes, and then also to the community at large.
So how many other board members are there?
We have a total of 7 board members.
So you're District 6, so do we have 7 districts?
We have 7 districts, and this year the even districts are up for re-election. So District 2, District 4, and District 6.
I see. What is the term?
4 years.
4 years. That's quite a commitment.
Yes, it is.
What are the geographic landmarks of your district?
Well, let's see. So if we think about the eastern edge of the city, if you're thinking of 84th and Holdridge, the new High V is out in that neck of the woods. And then you come across 84th Street all the way to Old Cheney, and at the corner of 84th and Old Cheney there is a Rock's gas station, and Fireworks is right out there. And then I go all the way out to the eastern edge. So I now pick up, I think I have 7 new precincts this time around. So the Firethorn area, the Highmark area, and then I've also picked up 4 precincts that are down around 27th and A. So we'd come all the way down to the Children's Zoo. We'd go over up towards the Wyuka Cemetery, and then over at 33rd and Holdridge would be where Clinton Elementary School is.
So there's quite a bit of space there between the north and the south parts of O Street, and so you're really encompassing a very large area. You're saying that you have picked up some new districts. Was there some type of a redistricting? Was it because of the growth of the city, or what all prompted that?
Yes, the city continues to grow, and that's a great thing for Lincoln. It's challenging a bit to some of our resources, including the schools, but as a result of that, we have shifted a little bit the boundaries of the 7 districts.
And the school board does that shifting? Or who
yes,
was the authority that did that?
That was the recommendation from the school board. A couple of our members, I was not involved in that process, but a couple of the members make that recommendation then to the election commissioner's office.
So as the city expands and grows, is there any future plans for expanding the number of representatives on the board?
That's not been discussed.
Okay.
You know, I suppose that would be a possibility, but we haven't discussed that at this point. 7, I think, works well. We're small enough that we communicate well together and frequently. Some boards are 9. I've heard of boards being as large as 12. There's many boards across the state that are made up of 6. So I think we're kind of at a good size at this point.
When you joined the school board, would have been 4 years ago, how many were enrolled in the system, and how many are there now?
We were at right about 35,000 students at that time, and now we're at over 39,000. So I would say we've picked up between 4,000 and 5,000 students. We're maybe not quite at 35,000. We grew to 1,200 students this year. And I talk to people and they say, gosh, that's bigger than the town I grew up in.
So how many schools were there when you started? And have there been some new ones added to the system since you started?
Yes, let's see. Clefcorn Elementary School was added. And I believe I'm trying to think, I think that's the only school that's been added during my 4-year term. We will open the Career Academy this fall, in the fall of 2015.
And that will be part of a new school, high school that's being built, or talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's on the Southeast Community College campus, and it's in partnership with Southeast Community College. And so Lincoln Public Schools and Southeast Community College are sharing that cost equally. And we will have students there from all 6 high schools, and it will be for juniors and seniors. And there are 16 different career pathways. And so if a student chooses a career pathway and stays with that both their junior and senior year, by the completion of their senior year, they can earn a year of college credit, which is really terrific. But we have everything from health sciences to education to culinary to automotive technology. So there's a wide range. And students will go there 2 periods a day. We will bus students from all 6 schools. And then I'm also aware that students from parochial schools, if there's adequate room, will be able to come, and some of the neighboring districts as well.
So is the Lincoln Public School System a leader in providing that type of a program for students? Is that in response to needing more trade-type trained people coming out rather than just...
I would say yes to both of those.
Okay.
We're not the first in the state, but we're certainly one of the leaders. I recently learned that Omaha is going to also be adding a career academy type setting. This was in response to businesses in our community saying, we love Lincoln, we want to stay here, but we can't find enough skilled staff, workers to come and to join us. And so there's been a desire on the business community's part, but it's also education, and it's nursing and other healthcare sciences.
Okay,
And
that was
so-
my next question, because normally when we think of trades, we
Right.
automatically think that it's set up for male students, but so this is going to be addressing some things for female students as well to participate
Absolutely, yes, all students. And I've heard people say this is not your old, shop class environment.
Right.
This is not.
in. They were working on cars.
Yeah, and that will be part of it, but it's not exclusively that focus. We've recently approved $500,000 in kitchen items for the culinary program. So
Wonderful.
it will really be state of the art. And Dr. Dan Hohensee is the principal and the leader of that program, and he's doing a terrific job.
Great. In today's paper, the 100th anniversary of Lincoln High School, which is my alma mater, is going to be celebrated, I believe, next Sunday.
Yes.
And they had pictures of the shop with old 1927 Model A's and
Sure.
in there, and I thought that was very interesting. So way back, 50, 70, 80 years ago, they were thinking about incorporating some type of trades courses and training for students, because not everybody was going forward into the university system. Could you explain the differences between LPS and other school systems existing in the county?
Sure. Well, Lincoln Public Schools is unique in that we are a large district. We're the second largest district in the state. And
Omaha being the first?
Yes, Omaha being
Okay.
the first. And we expand as the city expands. And so we're not in a situation where we have more than one district. I think that's a significant advantage for many reasons. One, I think we're more streamlined and efficient that way in terms of administration. Also, I think that we are equitable in terms of the distribution of our resources. And so we're not, I think in some places where they have a large number of students and they have very differing socioeconomic neighborhoods, then you get into a situation where some schools are funded better than others due to that having multiple districts and relying on the tax base. So I think Lincoln Public Schools is unique in that we have one district, but there are other districts in the southeast part of the state. Our neighbors to the south, the Norris School District, and then to the east, the Waverly School District, and there are others that are also in this area.
So we were talking about taxes being the revenue stream to support the Lincoln Public School System. Do they get funding from any other source? And what percentage of the revenue is from property taxes?
Great question. A significant portion of our revenue does come from property taxes, but it's not exclusively property taxes. And another major source would be different governmental programs. So, for example, we have students that are of low income, and we receive subsidy for them for free and reduced lunch, things like that. So 44% of our students in Lincoln Public Schools qualify for free and reduced lunch, and it's probably higher than that, but that's the number that have signed up. What we find is students get into middle school and high school, they might feel embarrassed about that and may not choose to sign up, where their family still would have that financial need. And Jane, in some of our schools, that might be as high as 80 to 90% in that particular school, but then that might be balanced by another school in the district that's at 10%.
So how does the board balance the economic resources going to all the different districts? Are you all competing against one another, or are you all kind of trying to move onto the same page? Because we do know that there's always in every community some that are lower income and others that are higher. Does that equate to better schools in the higher income not so in the lower income neighborhoods?
That's a good question. The district is also supported through Title I, and so you'll hear reference to Title I schools. And Title I school is when a certain percentage of students are at poverty level. And so then the federal government gives additional resources to our Title I schools. And that really does help to equalize things in terms of what I talk about and what's talked about in education is the opportunity gap. And so we have students who are coming into our schools who haven't had the exposure that maybe students have in other parts of the community to things like their parents reading to them or summer enrichment programs or things like that. And so Title I really gives us an opportunity to help equalize some of that and give us additional resources. In addition to that, our Title I schools are our community learning center schools. And so we have community learning centers at the elementary, middle, and at a high school. And that's before and after school programming, and that's focused on student achievement, family engagement, and community engagement.
Elaborate on that a little bit. I'm not familiar with that program.
Sure.
So these are special programs for children that need additional help with what, school or?
Well,
yeah.
it touches a variety of things.
Okay.
So it provides before and after school programming. So
And what are some of those? Describe some of those.
In the mornings, it's probably less of a club environment and more of a come in, get ready, have your breakfast, maybe have some physical activity in the morning,
Okay.
maybe some reading time, maybe a little bit of homework. But the after-school programming is very rich and vibrant, and it varies across the district. We have nonprofit agencies that are our partners, and so that includes Lincoln Parks and Recreation, it includes Family Service, Cedars. There's probably 10 different nonprofits that work with the 26 community learning centers.
Wow.
And then after school, they use a club setting for many of the programs. And so there might be a robotics club, or there might be, I know at Park Middle School, they do the Power Hour, where the first hour is set on homework. And some of the teachers at Park are hired to help with that, and so they have nice
So they stay
continuity.
beyond the regular school day and help with
Right.
that after-school
Right.
program.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And then at Park, they also serve dinner to the students. So they serve snacks. All the programs serve snacks, but in addition, Park is serving dinner, and that's in cooperation with the district.
Is that for parents that are working through the dinner hour or just not available to be at home with their children? Or?
Right, could
Okay.
be. And what we find in some of our schools where there's a lot of socioeconomic pressure is that families might be working 2 or 3 jobs, or they might be working into the evening, and so so certainly this is not intended to be a substitute for home life, but it's to help supplement and help families.
Okay.
So if they're all coming back home at 8 at night, they're not having to worry about homework and meal, and some of those things that are important for that student are well underway. But we have a lot of really great community partners that come into the schools and do clubs for us. And so that might include the Scouts, that might include, I think at Clinton they had a Mexican dance group that would come in, the university, Wesleyan. So it's really nice. And so if you think of it, in some parts of the community, parents are able to have the time and resources to find those enriching activities for their students. This allows for those enriching activities to come to the school and for students to be exposed to those.
Wonderful. What is the average age of the, well, let's talk about the principals, teachers, support staff working at the Lincoln Public School System. Do you know what the average age is of the LPS employee and what the turnover is?
No, I don't have an average age. What I would tell you is that, like many industries, we have a number of people who are reaching retirement age. And this year we hired 300 new teachers. We have about 2,500 teachers in the district.
Okay.
So we do have teachers that are choosing to retire after a long and very successful legacy career with us. and we believe that people should be able to retire.
Yes.
Even though we will miss them, and their students and the families will miss them, but they've worked long and hard for that. And so we're very fortunate in Lincoln in that we have many, many individuals who want to work in Lincoln Public Schools. And so we think that we get the cream of the crop in terms of applicants and the hiring process. And many people come to Lincoln to go to school and then have a desire to stay on. And if they're at one of the Lincoln colleges or universities, they've likely done their student teaching within Lincoln Public Schools,
Right.
and some practicum experience, those kinds of things. So they've had a chance to check us out. We've also had that opportunity as well.
And I can attest to that. I've got friends that wanted to teach in the Lincoln Public School System, but they couldn't get in because of the long waiting line of people that do want
Right.
to teach in the system. So they go out and teach at Waverly or
Right.
Raymond or someplace like that until they can get into the Lincoln Public School.
And we see that sometimes
Yeah.
people will teach a year or two in another setting and then come to Lincoln.
Which just gives them more preparation to come into the system. What about the diversity of the LPS staff? Does it represent the diversity of the student population?
We're not there yet. That is one of the areas of our strategic plan, is to have our staff and our faculty and the staff that work with our students be more representative of the overall population of Lincoln. I think that Lincoln Public Schools, like many industries in Lincoln, finds that to be a challenge in terms of having enough candidates that are interested in the various jobs and being able to bring them on. I do know that we have gone to some hiring fairs in some other communities.
I was going to just ask if you were
Right.
reaching out to outside of the
Yes,
normal.
some larger communities, cities, and have done some hiring fairs at those places. And sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to get someone interested in Nebraska. But when they learn about what a wonderful community it is, even though we don't have mountains and oceans,
Right.
and when they learn about our cost of living and the quality of life, I think that we're starting to see some
A little more
progress in that
interest.
area.
Great, good. How does the board work together? Well, first of all, tell us when do you meet and where and how often, and then how does the board actually do the business of the board?
Sure. Well, we meet the second and the fourth Tuesday evening of the month at 6 p.m. And we meet at the district office on O Street. When I was first elected to the board, our district office tragically was burnt to the ground 2 weeks after I was sworn in. So
Oh,
the
wow.
first meeting that I went to was in the city council chambers, where we met for about a year until the district office was ready. But we have a nice boardroom that is set up for multiple uses, because we're just in there twice a month for our meetings, and so we designed it specifically so that it would accommodate many groups that utilize that space. In addition to that, we have, much of our work is done through committee structure, and only 3 members of the board can be on a committee, so that you don't have a quorum of the board. And so there are probably 10 committees, and we each serve on several committees. So you have that opportunity also to work with fellow board members on committees. And then we meet, as I said, twice a month, and we talk between meetings on the phone, email, those sorts of opportunities as well. But we work together very well. And what I've seen over the last 4 years, there's probably only been 2 votes where we were a little bit split. But as one of my former colleagues said, and I agreed, that it may have been a 4-3 vote, but when we left the meeting, it was 7-0. And we really do work very well together without really any thought of political party. It's a nonpartisan position. It's about the children. And I, like all of my colleagues, represent Republicans, Independents, and Democrats.
Wonderful. We just have about 4 minutes left. There's 2 questions I'd like you to go over. One is, what are the future goals of the Lincoln Public School System. And then we did have a recent controversy over I think it's a purple penguin issue. Could you speak to those two things before we wrap it up today?
You bet. Well, under Dr. Joel's leadership, we have created a strategic plan, and we meet at the beginning of our board year. We swear in new board members in May, and then we set up we vote on who would be the president, vice president, those kinds of things. And then early in June or to mid-June, we have a retreat. And at that time, we set the goals for the strategic plan and for the upcoming year.
Okay.
So the things that we're currently working on in this year are increasing our graduation rate. And when I started with the board, we were at 82%. We're now over 87%. Our goal is 90% by 2017. And we
From high school?
From high school, yes.
Okay.
And we know that the last few percentages will be the most difficult work that we have to do. In addition to that, the technology plan, instituting that, as well as many other things. So that's where really that work comes. You asked about the
Purple penguin.
purple
We just have 1
penguins.
minute.
Sure.
If you could just speak to that
All
for a
right.
moment.
Purple penguins in 1 minute. We had teachers at one of our middle schools that asked for additional training to help serve a student who identified as transgendered. That those training was held, training materials were provided. There were teachers that apparently were not, that were disgruntled with that, and so instead of working through the school administration, they went to a parent in the community. So essentially, it was about giving adequate resources to our teachers to serve all students in their care.
Okay, great, wonderful. So do you have a website or a way for people to contact you if they want to help on your campaign?
I do, absolutely. It's Katie McCleese Stephenson.
Okay.
Is my website, and
Just
then,
.com?
Yes, I'm sorry, .com.
Okay.
And then my email address is Katie, the word for FOR LPS @gmail.com.
Okay, wonderful. Today's guest has been Katie McCleese Stephenson, District 6 member for Lincoln Public School System. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it and hope you come back again.
Thank you so much.
Okay.